as we were talking about before we went on, I was in a band for many years since I was like 13,
Mm-hmm.
and was trying to make a career out of that, being in a pop punk band, and it's tough,
Mm-hmm.
obviously. And
Yeah.
the last like 3 or 4 years of the band, we got to do 3 or 4 tours, and I was just feeling burnt out, and I was sick of not being able to pay my bills and make money. And I was thinking to myself, I thought, what can I do in music and still be able to make a steady paycheck? And the radio came to mind. And actually, years ago, when I was in grade school, radio was always in the back of my mind among, acting and, making films and things like that. It was always something artistic, something to do with music or acting.
Mm-hmm.
And so I decided, well, I'll give it a try. It'll give me a steady paycheck and something that I'll enjoy doing because it's still, I'm still involved with music.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, that's mainly what pop punk and pizza is about, is just talking about my favorite genre of music. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, I'm a big pizza addict too, so it just kind of works
Throw them
out.
all together.
Support the up and coming pop punk bands and have them on the show and talk and hang out, eat pizza. So yeah, that's pretty much what it is. It was just I wanted a steady paycheck, and I wanted to kind of live a normal life because I mean you can be in a touring band and travel all the time and have a family, but it's harder to to do that,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, and be on the road all the time. And let's say you're married and have kids,
Mm-hmm.
it's like it's just it people do it, but it's tougher.
Things,
So
certain aspects of your life suffer from it. It's like you're
yeah,
not there. So
yeah,
yeah.
and it's not that I miss touring. Um, I miss it a lot. It was just it's hard to make money from that. It takes a lot of work, a lot of effort, and I just felt like I was starting to feel burnt out, and I didn't have the drive that I once had to try and obtain that, because there are a lot of people that make their living from touring,
Mm-hmm.
but it takes a long time to get there, and then
Yeah.
to stay
Building.
there,
Yeah,
don't make
building your merch table and all that stuff. That's a big important one, and that costs a lot of money. I mean, you gotta have several albums, and how much money each album costs. You gotta have some T-shirts and whatever else you can get, and like all that adds up very fast. So,
yeah, and you got to be able to get people in the door, and
and a new place like that's never heard of you. How does that work? So it's not.
yeah, I just felt like I didn't have the drive that I should have, because I
Mm-hmm.
know in order to obtain anything, and whether it's you know being in a touring band and being able to pull in people every night in different cities every night, you have to really, really, really want it. It's just like if you want to win the World Series like the Cubs, you got to really want it.
Yeah.
Um, and I felt like I didn't want it enough. I
Oh man.
in order to
To
get
keep
it, I
putting that
guess.
150,000% that it takes.
Yeah,
So what got you into music in the first place?
my my older brother, well, he got me into rock music, I guess. He's 4 years older than me, and that's how I got started in a band. Before I started playing in a rock band, though, when I was 13, I started learning how to play trumpet. At I guess that was age 10. So
Hmm.
yeah, somewhere around there. And but yeah, he was like the main influence, because he was in a band, and I would go to their shows and I'd tag along. I was always like that little kid hanging out with a bunch of the older kids, and punk rock just grew on me,
Hmm.
and that's it was pretty much his influence. I really wanted to do that, and so for the longest time, all throughout high school, um, my grades suffered in high school because all I wanted to do was be in a rock band and travel the country, and I just couldn't wait until I was done with school to do that.
Yeah.
And when I got out of school, I found out, you know, what what it really takes. And um, I decided that I love music, but I'm gonna so I'm just gonna do a different aspect of it, and who knows, maybe an opportunity will come up and I'll be able to get back on the road.
Mm.
If I could get back on tour, I would actually rather be like a behind the scenes guy. There was a couple tours I did for a band that I was their merch guy, and just sold merch for them every night
You
on
make a
these
steady
bigger
money.
tours.
You like they give you money for doing it, and how did that work?
Um, with them, they were kind of on that level of not making a lot of money either.
Okay.
But the tours they were on were actually bigger tours. The one tour was with a band called Trapped, and then the second one was with a band called Red Jumpsuit Apparatus. Um, and even though they were bigger tours, they still, you know, they weren't making a lot of money. We were making enough money to get to like each
Then
show, and
yeah.
sometimes that wasn't even enough.
Mm.
Um, but it was still cool to experience the bigger tours like that, to where
Yeah.
you got. With the Red Jumpsuit, the crowd would vary from like 200 to 500 people a night, maybe
Mm-hmm.
600.
And Trapped is usually bigger than that, right?
Trapped was like 5 to 1,000, depending on um, what city we were in. Because I remember when we played in, I think it was Houston, Texas. That show was at House of Blues, and it sold out.
Mm.
So that was like a little over 1,000 people there. But then we'd go and play, I don't know, Salt Lake City, and there was 500 people.
Mm.
It's
Yeah.
just it just
Hit or
varied on
miss,
location. But
depending.
yeah, that was bigger. So it was cool to experience that. But if if the money was right and I was able to do it, if I was in a good financial spot, if I could go on the road and be a merch guy or be a tour manager or something like that. And because even though you're a behind the scenes guy, you still feel like you're a part of the band.
Yeah.
You're all brothers. You're helping them accomplish things and helping them further their career, so to
Very much
speak.
so. And it's like to me, if they're a respectable band, you're furthering your career as well because they don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they don't want to. They don't want. I mean, some people are just off the wall selfish, but most people, if you're putting in work and helping them, they want to make sure that you're doing well too. So.
Yeah, no, you're really helping each other out, so to speak, on just in different ways.
Mm.
But I've been really lucky with the opportunities I've had, as far as that goes. I mean, I haven't toured the country, 50 or 1,000 times over, but I think in the end it was about 6 different tours that I went on, and I got to go to almost every state, and that was cool.
What was your favorite show?
Favorite show? That's a tough one. We when my band, the Projection, was touring, we liked Florida because we made some friends down there. One of our favorite places actually was to play in South Carolina. There was this venue in, I think it was in Greenville, South Carolina. Just one of those hole in the wall places, really crappy.
Sometimes those are the best, right?
And it was the best. It was a really crappy dive bar, but the crowd was always so excited and energetic and just happy to be there. And they loved the fact that you were hundreds of miles away, or from 100 miles
Yeah.
away, and you came out there to play for them. And so that was always fun. We made some friends out there. So I guess it was you remember those places where you made some friends and you still talk to them to this day, because one of the guys that helped us with a place to stay a couple times when we were in South Carolina, I still talk to him
Nice.
on a regular basis.
Very cool.
So that's always cool to be able to say, hey, I met that person on tour and we're still friends. So it's really cool.
What's the farthest place you've been as far as performing goes?
Well, um, when I was working for the band I was working for was called the Action Blast, which they're no longer a band. But the furthest we went, I think, was Seattle.
Mm.
Seattle, obviously, pretty darn far.
Yeah.
um, Seattle was actually the first date on that trap tour, which was already 3 years ago. It was in January, and that's where the tour started. And we had to go all the way from Chicago to Seattle, and we literally drove almost nonstop. That was a really long drive.
Wow.
you know.
Nice.
Um,
Um,
so
so did you get a chance to check out like anything like KEXP or any of the cool music um, spots that do like K I don't know if you're familiar with KEXP, but they do the like live performances in like almost like a library setting.
no, you mean in Seattle?
Yeah.
You know, we didn't get to check out too much just because you're there for a purpose, you're there for the show, and then
Yeah.
there's not always a lot of time to explore.
Yeah.
And with
Yeah.
those guys, unfortunately, um, there wasn't like a someone in the band or like a tour manager to keep them on schedule. So a lot
Mm.
of times we'd show up to the venue like just right on time when we
Yeah.
were supposed to be there. So
Yeah. Didn't really get a chance to
because
like go to the radio stations or any of that kind of stuff.
we did do that was there was actually, you mentioned a radio station. There was a cool radio station story when I was with the Action Blast selling merch for them. We were in Texas and we had a couple off days in Texas, and we thought during that time, let's try to pick up, hop on some shows here and there if we can, or play some open mics or something. And we were in Lubbock, Texas, which is where the birth of Buddy Holly, one of my favorite
Nice.
rock and rollers from the 50s. We randomly were in Lubbock, and we were checking out like the rock radio stations in the area, and we found one, and we ended up kind of they ended up kind of raiding the place. They literally called they called the guy. I'm trying to remember if we called ahead of time or if we just showed up. I think they called ahead of time, and then we snuck into the radio station, and they ended up putting the guys on the air. They played their song on the air.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it was seriously all. Nothing was scheduled. Nothing was. They just randomly like showed up to this radio station and said, "Hey, we're on tour. We're Trapped right now. We have this single out. Can you play it? We're from Chicago." Like, it was really cool how they did it. They really just, it was kind of like busting into the radio station, but not like that
Yeah.
severe, I guess. But it was, I don't know. It was really cool. So
That's fun. Like when I was in Austin, I guess 2013. I went and visited some friends, and they were moving down there. So I helped them move down there, and while they were getting all set in and stuff afterwards, I went and I checked out as many places I could. I hit like 8 open mics in a week, and I got to radio stations, colleges, and all that stuff. And like there were so many that I like really couldn't get a hold of people in all of them. So I just started just going, and it was cool to meet all the different people that are just doing big things in Austin. Like I could only imagine being in like Seattle and all the other places because there's just so many people in the music fields, like just all over the world. So it's like you're never gonna meet them all, and I love connecting with those types of people because it's like, what drives you to do this? You know what I mean? Like because I know what drives me to do this, but like, what makes somebody else want to spend their life doing this kind of stuff?
sure, yeah,
Yeah.
it's really cool. You meet a lot of cool people along the way, and as long as keep connected and you help each other out. I mean, we're all trying to do the same thing. Some people you meet, they're very selfish, and they think it's like a competition kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it really isn't a competition. It's one big community, and we're all just trying to do the same thing. We're all just trying to be successful in whatever area of music that it is. Whether um, you know you're in a band and you're playing a show with another band, or it's like a setting like this. It's just to me, it's about helping each other out.
Spreading the word of each other, and keeping the music in rotation, and keeping everybody informed of all the new stuff going on with all the local and friendly musicians that you've acquired around the world, around the states.